And we are live. Kia ora, how's it going? My name is Tane, kissick-ponga. I'm a physical training instructor in the Royal New Zealand Navy. It's nice to meet you. I don't think we've ever actually met before, but yeah, supposed to be a quite out there person, but for some reason in front of cameras I get a little bit shy, so let's just see how we go with my presentation. Hope you can see it first and foremost. Basically, today I'm about to discuss with you my Papakura Army camp work placement. So contents I'll be going over is an overview of the organisation and my work placement, followed by some restating and evaluating my goals that I did previously prior to going on to this work placement, and reflecting on my placement, evaluating my performance, and then my impressions of the organisation. So basically, overview of the organisation. So my role personally, I've been in the Navy for 11 years. To become a PDI, you've got to be quite a senior individual within the military. So you can't just automatically join the military as a physical training instructor. You need to be in the military for at least about 3 to 4 years before you can actually transfer over, because it is such an instructor role. And you do take recruits and whatnot. So you are expected to have some sort of leadership level prior to commencing on this, and there are 3 roles throughout the whole military. It's the Air Force, the Army and the Navy that coincide with one another, so coexist with one another. Those are the medics, the physical training instructors and the chefies. So we all do our training all over the country as one unit, and then we branch out to wherever we originally were. So for PDI, we do our training in the South Island, and then with the Army individuals as well, and the Air Force, and then we make our way back to our bases. So we learn the same methods, but it's just how those methods are applied across the whole country, which makes us different as a whole and a bit unique in our own way as well. So the organisation that I was doing my work placement in was the New Zealand Army. I myself in the New Zealand Navy, so I'm in Devonport, North Shore, Auckland, and I did my work placement in Papakura Army Base, South Auckland. When we look into the 5 organisations, say again, the 5 Army Base camps throughout New Zealand, every camp sort of has around about 1,500 to 2,000 individuals. That's the ones in Christchurch, Wellington, Palmerston North, Waiouru, and then with the 5th camp being Papakura, only hosting 400 to 500 individuals. What makes this particular camp so unique in itself is that this whole camp is based around one organisation. So our New Zealand Special Forces are based out of this camp, and everyone in that camp caters to their Special Forces. So the needs to get them operationally ready to do their job and whatnot. So you can say that the camp itself is quite a prestigious camp to get to. It is quite unique. You need to be fitter than the original. Say again, you need to be fitter than your original individuals throughout the country. So Army will have a base fitness test. You need to be fitter than that, and you also need to do a couple of days of the SAS selection just to go to the camp. Since you are working in close confines with the SAS and you are helping them, you do get deployed with them and whatnot. So these individuals at this camp need to be quite fit. So you can sort of get the picture that everyone in this camp applied to be there. Everyone wants to be there, so everyone's on the same page. So you can sort of imagine that like teamwork is quite high there, professionalism is real high there, and everyone has a sense of welcoming there as well. It's something that I'm going to dive into anyway. So that's what they produce. They produce special air service soldiers, and that. So the reason I chose that organisation is because throughout the military you have all these different camps and bases throughout New Zealand, and Papakura is basically the most prestigious one, being the most professional and sought after position in terms of quality of work. Not exactly, and I suppose quantity as well, but not exactly in the sense that, see, for my job personally in the Navy, I'll be running like circuits for people that volunteer, generally writing programs for your average Joe type of person, whereas this camp actually has its purpose, serves its purpose quite well, and needs to be at high levels of productivity, if that sort of makes sense. So since we've already done our training together as PDIs, it was quite easy to establish this work placement. We sort of know each other through our networks and whatnot. So I just asked my boss, can I please work for Papakura? I transferred with someone and I spent my time out there for a week, which was actually pretty cool in a sense. A lot of experience gained and forever grateful for it as well. So looking back prior to going into my work placement, I had established some goals. And these goals are personal goals of mine that I knew I needed to work on, not only in the Navy but across the board. And they're always going to be ongoing in your career or wherever you are. So my first one was to develop time management skills by successfully organising and assisting Papakura Army Gyms units and providing high performance programs. I suppose it's quite subjective, me saying that I produced a high performance program. I think that's up to the individual themselves. My supervisor, who was PJ Katoa, Pareura Katoa, he might better provide you more information on that. Another goal was, evaluating my goals. I felt like I needed to work on my time management just based off the level of productivity required for this camp. I needed to be well equipped going in and not just sort of guessing my way through, but knowing my job a bit more. We weren't just taking your average Joes or your average fit people. These were people that were well experienced with high training ages and whatnot at this camp, which I was ready to deliver anyway. So even though I was on that work placement that week, I was probably preparing for it one in advance, about 1 to 2 weeks prior. Phone calling individuals, making sure I had everything pretty much prepped prior to going into this camp. My next one was improvement of verbal communication skills and further develop my research and writing skills through the creation of individual training programs for the NZDF crews. So basically how it went was I arrived there on the first day and immediately I went to my supervisor just to find out what the go was, and then he gave me the roles and responsibilities he needed from me, which was just be professional at all time, make sure I was prepared at all time, and just assisted with everyday jobs around the gym. And it was pretty straightforward, something similar to the job I did in my gym. So when I arrived, first thing done was clean, and then I watched them take a class, initially the unit that I was going to be in charge of for that week. And then I was able to take like a more laid back class later on in the day, and in the afternoon I was just cleaning, helping out where I can. Lunch breaks came whenever you wanted to take it, as long as you had a bit of a break, and told your boss. And then they usually let me go around about 3 o'clock, 3:30. So in terms of verbal communication skills, it was happening weeks prior to. I wanted to establish the network just to get my foot in the door and just getting a sort of a decent idea of what was going on in that camp prior to. Established it straight away upon arrival, as you do. If you don't know what to do, you definitely need to ask questions in the military. If you're late in the military, you get punished quite severely. One thing I still need to work on though is my writing skills. I feel I'm very not confrontational, but I like to engage in convos instead of writing emails and whatnot. We have an email network within the military. I feel people get the wrong idea considering that it's such a formal environment. So I'm always just engaging in conversations where technically you should be sort of writing formal letters in there. I know it's such an old school method, but that's just how the military works. We haven't sort of grown out of that. So everything you ask for, whether it be PT equipment or anything like that, you need to write it up, have it in email format, quite formal, send it off, proper marks of respect, and that's usually the process that we go through instead of going directly to the person, which I'm so accustomed to. But it's sort of that old school method. You're not allowed to talk to the senior person. You need to talk to the person directly above you. He talks to the person above him until they get to that person. I know it sounds silly, but it's just some of the methods or some of the things that makes us just a little bit different from your average person. And my last one was improving my interpersonal relationship skills by interacting daily with Army staff and command, which I was doing daily. In Papakura, they have a small team of about 3 physical training instructors, and everyone's required to do roughly around about three classes a day. So it's quite tight-knit group. To become a PDI, you need to do a selection process, and obviously we do our training together. So that interaction with one another, you have a lot in common. You're sort of on the same page, especially when it's quite new to you. You're definitely asking a lot of questions in that sort of regard, if it makes sense. So my reflection on my placement. So what went well and what didn't. So what went well was the formality of the camp. So I went there so used to Navy, such a large camp, Navy being 2,000 people. You could have people not show up to your class and that someone's always late, someone's always sick or whatnot, but the professionalism of this camp. So basically my first class was at 10 o'clock the second day, apart from my first day, or my first real intense class, say that it is, and everyone was there within 45 minutes prior to their class even starting. What their class entailed was like just physical training, as you do, that's what I do for a job, but the prep that they were putting in themselves showed that the level of professionalism was real high. People stretching, people warming up, so when it hit time to run their class, everyone was ready to go, and everyone was on the same page. You didn't need to monitor everyone, you didn't need to really encourage everyone had their own sense of encouragement, whereas back at the Navy base, I need to find those people, especially in a formal environment. I need to find the people that ain't working hard enough and then try and uplift them to be just as good as the better people and whatnot, or just to work as hard as majority of the people. What didn't work too well, I suppose the formality. Later on in that week, I realised I'm so used to Navy just being a bit more informal in regards to rank and that. Once you sort of get to know people, you relate back to first names, and you relax the boundaries just a little bit. But in this camp, it's just straight, that's your rank, that's what you get addressed by, and there's no quarter whatsoever, or you get a bit of a yelling at, which was different, but it was good as well, and that showed through in the type of training they do at their camp. So how I felt being out there, so I was a little bit nervous at first. It was a bit daunting knowing that these people are trained to go into some dangerous areas and do some dangerous things, and yet you're put in charge of a physical component that is supposed to make them fit within that particular area. So how it would work was you'll talk to them and whatnot, and you'll discuss what they're going to do in the field within detail. They won't tell you everything, obviously a secret organisation, but they'll give you some insight that they'll have a pack on for a long period of time or whatnot, and you'll relate what they have to do in future operations to your training program, and that's how we built it. So it was a little bit daunting, but I was not afraid to ask for help, which was a good thing, and I knew people were well experienced there and were guiding me, and it was only a week anyway, so I just needed to plan just a little bit, and they already had their program sussed, but lucky for me, the supervisor was willing to allow me just to experiment a little bit more. Obviously, if I had more time, we would see results and whatnot. What would I change? I wouldn't change probably anything out there. It's pretty impossible to change. I felt I didn't have enough time to get into the nooks and crannies or see a weaker side in that sort of sense of the physical training. I suppose if something did really need to change, it would probably have to be the facilities. The facilities themselves are quite dated, so the term "if it's not broke, don't fix it" comes to mind when I talk about these facilities. So the building has not been changed since early 70s, 1960s, but the equipment inside is just barbells, CrossFit rigs, ropes, all this type of stuff. But it's, PT is no secret, it's just the hard work required for it. You'd expect a lot of money gets pumped into these individuals, but they still have like a average facility, but they have everything they need. That's the main thing. Would I do it again? Yeah, definitely. Like, I think you should always be looking out for experiences and trying different things, and trying, like I am here, I'm studying, but I work within the Navy. I think you should always be venturing out and trying something new. That's how you get more tools in your tool basket, and that's how you network better with other people as well. What was different between them and me? So as stated before, the formality of the environment, and how the Navy, you need to push people more. Army, at this particular camp, everyone is definitely motivated if you're not coming to PT, you're sort of left. You're the black sheep. What I put it, you're a bit left out of the group. So it was good to see. It was a change anyway, where I didn't really need to do much on my job apart from the programming in it. I didn't have to formally tell people what to do. Everyone was there, willing to do what they needed to do. So what I've learned from this sort of experiences, there's a lot of humility there, a lot of teamwork as well. Everyone in that environment works around each other and for each other. And even though we do that in the Navy, it was actually definitely at a higher level coming into this environment. Just due to the nature of who the people were, I think they had a presence in this camp that could be felt through all the trades, whether you're cooking for them, storing up their clothes or anything like that, or cleaning for them. I think everyone was definitely on the same page in terms of their training, and not just physical training, but the operational training in that as well. I found that none of them had egos. There's a couple people that were somewhat intimidating due to the fact that they have great PT backgrounds. For an example of this, is one of them was ex-#1 person in CrossFit, Aaron James, but he was still willing to take on whatever I was willing to apply once I was there, which was good to see. There was no egos. Everyone's willing to work hard, willing to do the program, no questions asked, and out. And everyone works together very well, very, very well. Nothing less you would expect from our highest operational unit in the country. So my impressions of the organisation. So the positives, as stated before, so we're talking about the professionalism, how everyone goes about business at this camp, the humility, how there's no real ego, no one's real up themselves for being who they were, or being in one of the prestigious groups in this country. Sense of belonging as well, since everyone's on the same page in this camp. You feel like people are just there to help each other out. As soon as you enter the camp, they knew I was new, they were willing to take on whatever I had applied in that, and they're willing to ask questions for myself and ask where I'm from, and likewise to them. Hospitality, as always in military camps, when you're invited in, especially within the PT environment, they love to just treat you like a brother pretty much. This is what makes us a bit unique. We need to work together as a team, so we do our best to cater to that. And the egos and effort, lastly, the effort they put into everything. Some classes at 4 AM in the morning, the effort they there, still half an hour early. The latest classes would be around midnight. Those are some of the interesting things happening at this camp. It's just where PT fits in the SAS schedule, should I say. So it was pretty interesting that regardless of time, they're definitely at the top of their trade and know what they're doing, and definitely put 100% to everything. That's why they're there now. And the only negatives I had was just the formalities and the facilities. I feel like as a unit, formalities, facilities, and maybe some outside peers, to be honest, like some doctors to enter in and give a different perspective on how things are. The facilities are just a bit dated. You would expect people that put their life on the line to have facilities and whatnot at a higher level, so you can practice a bit more. The formalities, you sort of get a bit over it. I suppose it needs to be there, but within the PT environment, I feel you can always achieve a stimulus, regardless if you're yelling at someone or not. And some outside sources, I feel like we do only do so many courses and whatnot, but I understand that the practical side of our job is always the most important, and the experiential side of our job is very, very important in getting results. But I would like to see someone from outside come in, doctors and whatnot. I didn't really ask the question if they did, but just to make things a bit more interesting, they were very, very fit individuals, every single one of these soldiers. Training was a part of their everyday, 3 times a day, whenever they can fit it in. Eating, they were well and truly on top of what they needed to do. But I always feel that maybe a few more brains in this operation, just to just to what's the word? Just to make it more optimal, I suppose. Not saying that anyone in my trade is particularly dumb. There's some definite smart cookies out there. That's why you're definitely out there. But there's nothing wrong with searching out for outside sources to get better. But that's pretty much my presentation on Papakura Army Camp. I hope hope you enjoy it. Hope you've seen it as well. Thank you for allowing me or pushing me to get to that work placement. Yeah, cheers. Hope you enjoyed.